Lindsay Buziak's story is one that continues to baffle both investigators and the public. On February 2, 2008, Lindsay, a 24-year-old real estate agent in Saanich, British Columbia, was brutally murdered while showing a home to what she believed were prospective buyers. The shocking nature of her death, stabbed multiple times, has led to countless theories, but no clear answers. The circumstances of Lindsay's murder are deeply puzzling, leaving many to wonder why such a crime would be committed against someone like her. Despite the passage of nearly 2 decades, Lindsay's case remains unsolved, and her family, especially her father, continues to push for justice, leading annual walks to keep her memory and the pursuit of answers alive. Theories about who was behind the attack and their motives range widely, but the truth remains elusive. Even with new technologies and investigative efforts, including the involvement from the FBI, no arrests have been made, and the case remains a haunting mystery in the community. Join me here at Odd Mysteries Stories as we dive into the story of Lindsay Buziak's mysterious murder. Lindsay Elizabeth Buziak was born on November 2, 1983, to Jeff Buziak and Evelyn Rietmeyer. From the moment she entered the world, Lindsay was a source of happiness for her family. Her mother, Evelyn, fondly recalled how Lindsay was such a happy little thing. She was not just full of joy, but also sharp and perceptive, qualities that would define her throughout her life. From a young age, Lindsay displayed a blend of sociability and timidity. She had a close bond with her mother, often clinging to her when in an unfamiliar situation. Yet, despite her shyness, Lindsay's outgoing nature would shine through, particularly when she was around people she trusted. One of Lindsay's early passions was fashion. Even as a young girl, she was conscious of her appearance and had a keen sense of style. This was evident in a charming childhood anecdote where Lindsay, wanting to complete her outfit, asked her mother for grape bubble gum, simply because it matched her dress. Her mother, however, instilled in her a sense of practicality, explaining that she would provide for what Lindsay needed, but not for what she merely wanted. This lesson in self-reliance led Lindsay to secure her first job as a young teenager at the Sirens clothing store in Mayfair Mall. The Buziak family cherished their summers at Lake Cowichan, where they had a trailer on an RV lot. These were the golden days, filled with laughter and the kind of carefree fun that childhood summers are made of. Lindsay's younger sister, Sarah, has fond memories of those times, recalling how she learned to swim just to keep up with Lindsay. Lindsay wasn't just a sister, she was a role model and a supportive presence in Sarah's life. This nurturing quality extended beyond her family. Lindsay's mother proudly recounted how Lindsay once stood up for a boy who was being bullied at school. It was a moment that reflected Lindsay's strong sense of justice and her willingness to defend others. However, life took a difficult turn for the Buziak family in the mid-1990s when Jeff and Evelyn's marriage ended. The split was hard on the family, with Evelyn gaining primary custody of their daughters. Despite the challenges, Jeff remained an important figure in Lindsay's life. In the early 2000s, Jeff relocated to Calgary, Alberta, where he continued his career in real estate, now focusing on commercial properties. As Lindsay grew, these early experiences, the love and the lessons from her parents, and the adventures with her sister, and her innate sense of style and justice would shape the woman she became. A woman whose life, though tragically cut short, left an indelible mark on those she knew and loved her. As Lindsay Buziak transitioned from her teenage years into adulthood, she began navigating the complexities of relationships and career ambitions. At the age of 18, Lindsay entered into a relationship with Matt McDuff, a chapter in her life that would later be described as stormy. McDuff himself acknowledged the turbulent nature of their relationship during an interview on Dateline, though he was adamant that it had never become physically violent. Their relationship, fraught with ups and downs, eventually ended around the middle of 2006. By the time of Lindsay's tragic death, the two had not been in contact for months, and McDuff had moved on to another relationship. When questioned in 2021 about Lindsay's murder, McDuff firmly denied any involvement, stating that he was in a different place in his life at the time of her death. Despite the public attention on his past with Lindsay, McDuff has remained largely silent, expressing concern for his current family, particularly his daughters, who he did not want exposed to the details of his past relationship. I can certainly understand and respect his wishes. With her relationship with McDuff behind her, Lindsay turned her focus towards building a career. She became interested in real estate, a path that seemed a natural fit given her father's background in the industry. Determined to succeed, Lindsay enrolled in the UBC Saunders School of Business's Real Estate Trading Services program. The coursework was demanding, particularly the math, but Lindsay was not one to shy away from a challenge. She sought out the help of Helen Jones, a real estate tutor in Victoria, to strengthen her skills and ensure she was well prepared for the career ahead. This period marked a time of growth and determination for Lindsay. She was no longer the little girl asking for grape bubblegum to match her dress. She was a young woman setting the foundation for what she hoped would be a successful and fulfilling career. As Lindsay's journey into real estate began to take shape, it was clear that she was driven by both ambition and a desire to make a mark on the world, a determination that would propel her forward in the coming years. In 2005, during a workshop led by her real estate tutor, Helen Jones, Lindsay Buziak reconnected with Jason Zalo. Jason, known in the community for his competitive hockey days, was someone Lindsay had known from around Victoria. Their paths had crossed once more, and this time they just clicked, as Jason later recalled. Their connection quickly deepened, marking the beginning of a new chapter in Lindsay's life. Lindsay's dedication to her career was paying off. In June 2006, she passed her real estate exam, a significant achievement that set her apart as one of the youngest real estate agents in Greater Victoria, with only about 20 agents under the age of 25 in the surrounding area. Lindsay joined Maverick, a real estate company marketing townhouses in the West Shore, where she honed her skills and began to build her reputation in the industry. Around the time Lindsay became licensed, her relationship with Matt McDuff was ending. It was a period of transition for Lindsay, both personally and professionally. As her relationship with McDuff fizzled out, her connection with Jason Zalo grew stronger. According to her friend Vicky Mackey, Lindsay was particularly impressed by Jason and his family, especially given their involvement in the real estate industry. Jason's mother, Shirley Zalo, was also a real estate professional, and Lindsay was excited about being a part of their circle. For Lindsay, Jason represented stability and a departure from the past. Her mother, Evelyn Rietmeyer, noted that Lindsay specifically emphasized that Jason was not involved with drugs, a significant factor for her. This was important to Lindsay, who wanted to ensure that she was surrounded by people who were focused and driven, much like herself. In early 2007, Shirley Zalo purchased a home on Shawnigan Lake, intended as a vacation retreat for the family and friends. That summer, Lindsay and Jason spent time at the lake house, living in a basement suite and enjoying the peaceful setting. The couple had the run of the upstairs when no one else was there, allowing them to spend a relaxing summer together, away from the hustle and bustle of their busy lives. This period in Lindsay's life seemed to be one of promise and new beginnings. She was forging a path in a career she was passionate about, forming connections that brought her joy, and building a future that she was excited about. The lake house summers and her deepening relationship with Jason were signs of a life Lindsay was creating, a life full of potential and happiness. As Lindsay Buziak's relationship with Jason Zalo deepened, questions began to surface about the true nature of their connection and the influence of the Zalo family. Jeff Buziak, Lindsay's father, long held the belief that Shirley Zalo had purchased the lake house specifically for Lindsay and Jason to live in, a gesture that he felt was intended to draw Lindsay further into the Zalo family's orbit. However, this claim was strongly disputed by those close to Lindsay. Shirley Zalo, along with Lindsay's mother, Evelyn Rietmeyer, and her sister, Sarah Buziak, all insisted that the lake house was a family retreat and had never been intended as a home for Lindsay and Jason. As Lindsay's career in real estate continued to gain momentum, she made the decision to join RE/MAX Camosun, the same brokerage where Shirley, Jason, and Jason's brother, Ryan Zalo, were already established. Moving in professional circles alongside her boyfriend and his family, Lindsay quickly began to make her mark. She and Jason moved into a one-bedroom condo in the Inner Harbor, a property owned by the Zalo family. Her hard work paid off, and during her time at RE/MAX, Lindsay was involved in 8 property transactions that grossed a total of $3.2 million, a remarkable achievement for someone so young in the industry. Despite her professional success, Lindsay began to experience doubts about her relationship with Jason. During a visit to her father in Calgary on December 15, 2007, she confided in him that she felt Jason lacked the same drive and ambition that she possessed. This wasn't the only time that Lindsay expressed her concerns. She also shared her feelings with friends, including Vicky Mackey, indicating that she was unhappy and was considering ending the relationship. Although Jason acknowledged that they had their share of troubles, he maintained that as far as he knew, they were not on the verge of a breakup. He was quoted as saying, "We never talked about a breakup." Sarah Buziak, Lindsay's sister, also viewed the relationship in a positive light, noting that Jason seemed to treat Lindsay well, and that the couple appeared happy together. After returning to British Columbia, Lindsay, Jason, and some of the Zalo family members went on a trip to Whistler. The getaway seemed to have a positive effect on their relationship. According to Evelyn Rietmeyer, Lindsay remarked that the trip was exactly what they needed, saying, "We had such a fun time in Whistler. This was the perfect thing. We needed to spend time together." As they moved into 2008, it appeared that Lindsay and Jason were working through their issues with some hope for a renewed connection. On Friday, February 1st, 2008, Lindsay Buziak received an unexpected phone call that would set the stage for a series of events leading to a tragedy. The call came from a number with a 778 area code, and on the other end was a woman with a heavy accent that Lindsay later described as either Spanish or Mexican. The woman, whose name Lindsay did not note in her records, claimed to be interested in purchasing a home in Victoria. The caller explained that her husband was being transferred from Vancouver to Victoria, and they were in urgent need of a new $1 million home. She requested to meet Lindsay the following evening at 5:30 p.m. to view several properties and make a swift purchase. When Lindsay inquired how the woman had found out about her, the caller vaguely mentioned that it was through a friend of her husband's, a detail that was recorded in court documents. Intrigued by the potential for a significant sale, Lindsay saved the woman's number in her phone under the name $1 Million and began searching for suitable properties to show. Although Lindsay did not have any listings that matched the caller's requirements, she knew that she could sell a property listed by another agent and still earn a considerable commission. This opportunity was particularly appealing to Lindsay, who was still relatively early in her career. However, despite the excitement, Lindsay couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. According to court documents, she confided in others that she found the call weird. The urgency of the request, the lack of clear details, and the mysterious nature of the call made Lindsay uneasy. As she prepared for the showing the next day, her concerns continued to grow, casting a shadow over what would have been a promising opportunity. In the hours leading up to the appointment, Lindsay's unease would deepen, foreshadowing the dark turn in her life that was about to take place. As Lindsay Buziak prepared to meet her mysterious new clients, police would later piece together a troubling narrative about the phone used to contact her. According to investigators, the phone, which originated from Vancouver, was used to set up the appointment with Lindsay and then traveled to Greater Victoria before the meeting. This phone became a piece of key evidence in the investigation, with the police stating that whoever possessed it during a crucial, though redacted, time frame were directly involved in the murder and may be considered suspects. Despite intense scrutiny, the identities of the individuals Lindsay met with on that fateful evening remain unknown. In 2009, the Saanich Police Department, also known as SPD, released a composite sketch of the female suspect, but no arrests have ever been made. The SPD's website continues to list these suspected clients as still unidentified, a haunting reminder of the case's unresolved nature. On the evening of February 1st, 2008, as the phone made its way from Vancouver to Victoria, Lindsay carried on with her plans. She took a walk and later had dinner with Shirley Zalo, while Jason was occupied with a hockey game. When they returned to the condo that Lindsay and Jason shared, Shirley overheard Lindsay wrapping up a phone call with the mysterious client. The arrangement for the house showing seemed finalized, and Lindsay appeared to be ready to move forward with the appointment. Later, as they walked to the downtown area and ended up at a sushi restaurant, Shirley repeatedly offered to show the house on Lindsay's behalf. Shirley maintained that her offers were not prompted by any sense of fear or unease on Lindsay's part, but rather because Lindsay was involved in organizing a surprise bachelorette party for a friend on the mainland and might have preferred to attend the event instead. I sat right across from her and offered her help, not because she told me she was scared, Shirley later explained. I offered her help because she wanted to go to Vancouver. Despite Shirley's offers, Lindsay was determined to handle the showing herself. She continued to prepare for the appointment, even as a sense of foreboding lingered beneath the surface. As the events leading up to Lindsay Buziak's tragic death unfolded, the pieces of the puzzle began to take shape, but many questions still lingered. According to court documents, police believed that the person or persons who contacted Lindsay arrived in Victoria via a BC's ferry sailing. After disembarking, they traveled south along a major route into the city, with their phone pinging off a cell tower near Cook and Finlayson, a location close to downtown Victoria. This occurred on the night before Lindsay's scheduled meeting with the mysterious clients. That same night, Jason Zalo returned to the condo he shared with Lindsay around midnight. Lindsay was still awake, and the two discussed the upcoming house showing. Although Lindsay was curious about the unusual circumstances surrounding the call, particularly why the caller had chosen her, a relatively inexperienced real estate agent, Jason described her mood as more inquisitive than fearful. He once again offered to handle the showing in her place, citing her plans to attend a friend's bachelorette party in Vancouver. However, Lindsay declined the offer, reinforcing her determination to see the appointment through herself. As Jason later remarked, if she was concerned, she wouldn't say no to going to Vancouver. The next morning, The mystery caller reached out to the couple's home phone, asking for Lindsay. Jason answered and informed the caller that Lindsay was out. When he offered to provide Lindsay's cell number, the caller responded that she already had it. Jason would later describe the caller to the police as having a, quote, broken Spanish accent, consistent with Lindsay's earlier description. At some point before the scheduled showing, Lindsay spoke with the client in what police believe was a 10-minute conversation. During this exchange, Lindsay likely provided the caller with the address of the now infamous house in Gordonhead, a decision that has since been scrutinized by both investigators and the public. Despite the speculation that the prospective buyers specifically requested to see that particular home, police believe that Lindsay chose the Gordonhead property because it met the criteria the caller had provided, including a separate area for the housekeeper and a budget of around $1 million. Lindsay had meticulously copied these details into her day timer, preparing to meet the client's expectations. As the morning turned into afternoon, Lindsay was poised to meet with her clients, unaware that she was walking into a carefully laid trap. The details, meticulously planned and executed, would lead to a crime that would leave her family and community searching for answers and justice for years to come. As the day of the appointment approached, it seemed that Lindsay Buziak's initial curiosity about her new clients was transforming into a deepening sense of unease. According to court documents, police believe that the suspect or suspects may have scouted the Gordonhead neighborhood in advance, familiarizing themselves with the area and possibly identifying escape routes, a chilling indication of premeditation. Around 2 p.m. on that Saturday, Lindsay was at the Remax Camosun head office on Chatterton Way. Feeling increasingly anxious, she asked two receptionists to perform some research on the caller's name and phone number. To her concern, they found no real estate history in Greater Victoria that matched the information provided by her supposed clients. This only heightened Lindsay's discomfort, and she began to express her fears more openly. A colleague, Cal Faber, who once served as an RCMP officer, overheard Lindsay discussing the situation with a small group of coworkers. Concerned for her safety, Faber and others offered to accompany her to the Gordonhead property. However, Lindsay declined, reassuring them that Jason would be there with her. She had full confidence in the fact that her boyfriend was going to be there, Faber later recalled. By 3 p.m., Lindsay met Jason for lunch at a restaurant near the Inner Harbor. According to Jason, Lindsay ate quickly, her mind seemingly focused on the task ahead. She showed Jason the feature sheets of the properties she planned to present to the mystery couple. Despite his repeated offers to take over the showing for her, Lindsay insisted on handling it herself. After lunch, Lindsay returned home to change for the appointment, while Jason headed to a meeting at SHC Autographics, a nearby auto detailing shop. During the meeting, Jason received several calls from his friend and colleague, Cohen Oatman, who played on the same hockey team as him. Jason was looking forward to a night of hockey and drinks with friends, assuming that Lindsay would be safely attending her friend's bachelorette party in Vancouver later that evening. As the afternoon turned into evening, the anticipation and unease surrounding the appointment grew. Lindsay, determined yet increasingly unsettled, was about to step into a situation that would forever alter the lives of everyone who knew her and loved her. As the clock approached 5 p.m. on February 2nd, 2008, the final pieces of Lindsay Buziak's tragic day began to fall into place. Jason Zalo, still occupied with his meeting at SHC Autographics, received a call from Lindsay, who provided him with the address to the house. She was headed to 1702 De Sousa Place in Gordonhead. Recognizing Lindsay's growing unease, Jason decided to check in on her before continuing with his plans to play hockey. His friend Cohen Oatman agreed to accompany him, and the two set off in Jason's Range Rover. The neighborhood Lindsay was headed to was so new that it didn't even appear on the Range Rover's GPS, complicating Jason's attempt to follow her. As Lindsay approached the cul-de-sac on D'Souza Place, she sent Jason a text with the address and asked him to follow her there. Jason, who was unfamiliar with the area, called Lindsay for directions around 5:30 p.m. Just as she was about to guide him, Lindsay noticed the prospective buyers arriving. She said, "Oh, okay, I've got to go. They're here," she said before ending the call. Jason requested that she text him the directions before hanging up. Moments later, multiple witnesses observed Lindsay greeting the couple in front of the house. The man was described as tall with dark hair and a long jacket, while the woman had short blonde hair and was wearing a distinctive swirling black and red dress. Lindsay shook hands with them and then led them inside the house, beginning what would be her final showing. As the tour moved upstairs, Lindsay sent Jason another text with directions to the house. Meanwhile, Jason had already reached out to his brother for assistance with navigating the area and was making his way to the D'Souza Place. Unbeknownst to Lindsay, these would be the last moments of her life. As she led the couple through the house, the events that followed would shock the community and leave her loved ones searching for answers in a case that would remain unsolved for years to come. Lindsay Buziak led the couple through the house at 1702 D'Souza Place, unaware that she was walking into a deadly trap. As they ascended the stairs, Lindsay turned to show the main bedroom and ensuite bathroom. It was at this moment, with her back turned, that she was brutally attacked. The assailant stabbed Lindsay multiple times with an edged weapon. Despite various exaggerated reports in the media claiming that Lindsay was stabbed 40 to 50 times, or that certain parts of her body were specifically targeted, these accounts have been debunked. The reality is that Lindsay suffered multiple stab wounds, with the most significant injuries to her chest and abdomen. The exact number of stab wounds remains uncertain, but it is widely accepted that more than one wound would have been fatal. Police described the attack as both, quote, sloppy and obviously unprofessional. The attack occurred around 5:41 p.m., and in a tragic twist, triggered a pocket dial from Lindsay's phone to a friend she wasn't in regular contact with. This call resulted in a muffled voicemail, which later became a haunting clue in the investigation. As recounted by Staff Sergeant Chris Horsley on Crime Watch Daily, immediately after the stabbing, the suspects fled the scene. A trail of bloody footprints was discovered on the staircase, indicating the attackers' hurried departure. As they prepared to exit the house, possibly through the front door, Jason Zalo and Cohen Oatman arrived at the scene. The headlights from Jason's Range Rover briefly illuminated a man who seemed to be retreating from the front doorway. Presumably, they were headed towards the back of the house. Believing the showing had just begun, Jason, respecting Lindsay's earlier request not to interrupt, drove past the house. He turned around in the driveway of a nearby house under construction and parked a short distance away, waiting to give Lindsay time to complete the showing. However, as the minutes passed, Jason began to sense that something was wrong. He noticed no signs of movement inside the house and sent Lindsay a text asking if she was okay, but he received no response. Growing more concerned, he repositioned his Range Rover closer to the house and attempted to call her. Once again, Lindsay did not answer. As the situation unfolded, Jason's initial attempt to respect Lindsay's professionalism would come to haunt him, as the realization dawned that something terrible had occurred inside the house. The events that followed would shock the community and leave an indelible mark on those closest to Lindsay. As minutes ticked by without any response from Lindsay, Jason and Cohen Oatman's concern grew into alarm. At approximately 6 p.m., Jason decided it was time to act. He and Oatman got out of the Range Rover and walked up to the front entrance of the house at 1702 D'Souza Place. To their dismay, the door was locked, and despite Jason ringing the doorbell repeatedly, there was no answer. Additionally, the real estate lockbox, which held the key, was empty. Feeling increasingly desperate, Jason attempted to page the listing agent, but received no immediate response. He then called his mother, Shirley Zalo, asking for the listing agent's cell number. When he explained the situation, the agent provided Jason with the code for the garage, but frustratingly, it didn't work. Jason then tried another door around the side of the house, but it too was locked. At this point, Jason turned to Oatman for advice, asking if he should break a window to gain entry. Oatman suggested calling the police instead. At 6:05 p.m., Jason dialed 911, explaining that he was concerned because Lindsay had been kind of scared about the showing, and now she wasn't responding. As Jason made the call, Oatman noticed something unusual. From the side of the house, he saw a set of open French doors leading out from the kitchen and dining area into the enclosed backyard. The doors were visible over the top of the wooden fence, suggesting that the suspects may have escaped through a gap in the fence after exiting the house through the back doors. Taking immediate action, Jason boosted Oatman over the fence. Oatman ran through the yard and into the house, quickly unlocking the front door from the inside. Jason ran around from the back to meet him at the front entrance. Once inside, the two men split up. Oatman took the lower floor while Jason hurried upstairs, calling out Lindsay's name. It was partway up the stairs that Jason's worst fears were realized. As he ascended, he caught sight of Lindsay, slumped against the bedroom wall. The sight was devastating, confirming that something terrible had happened. The realization that they'd arrived just moments too late to prevent the tragedy would haunt them and the Buziak family forever. When Jason Zalo and Cohen Oatman finally entered the house at 1702 D'Souza Place, they were met with a horrific sight. Lindsay Buziak laid on the floor surrounded by a large pool of blood. Jason, in a state of shock, immediately attempted to perform CPR, but it was tragically too late. As he tried to breathe life back into Lindsay, the air he blew into her escaped through the numerous stab wounds on her body, a grim indication that nothing more could be done. At 6:11 p.m., Oatman made a second frantic call to 911, urgently requesting an ambulance. The reality of the situation began to sink in for Jason, who later described his overwhelming sense of regret and helplessness. "I think about it all the time," he confessed. "If I was 10 minutes earlier, if I had went with her, would she still be alive?" These thoughts haunted him as he replayed the events of that day over and over in his mind. Once at the Saanich police headquarters, Jason's frustration with the investigation process grew. He told a reporter that it took hours and hours before the police began interviewing him, time he believed that should have been spent searching for Lindsay's killers. Jason felt the police mishandled the investigation from the start, wasting valuable time and resources questioning him and Oatman. What they should have been doing is having 8, 10, 12 cars out searching right away. I think they totally botched the whole investigation on the first day, he lamented. Despite his frustration, Jason cooperated fully with the investigators. He took a polygraph test, handed over his phone and the laptop he and Lindsay shared, and even participated in a filmed reenactment of how he and Oatman discovered Lindsay's body. Over a decade later, Jason continued to assert his innocence, maintaining that he had nothing to do with Lindsay's murder. However, The shadow of suspicion lingered. I guess I'm just the easiest target, he reflected, acknowledging how the circumstances of that day made him a focal point in the ongoing investigation. Lindsay's father, Jeff Buziak, expressed doubts about Jason's emotional response, noting that he didn't display the outward signs of grief one might expect. However, Lindsay's sister, Sarah Buziak, offered a different perspective. She worked for Jason after the murder and described him as hurt, confused, and sad. Sarah also shared that she was interviewed by Dateline, but her interview was not included in the final broadcast. Unlike others who followed the media coverage closely, Sarah chose to distance herself from the constant speculation and theorizing. She said, "If I was to listen to what other people said or claimed they knew, it would probably drive me crazy." The aftermath of Lindsay's murder left a community in shock, a family in mourning, and a case that remains shrouded in mystery, with more questions than answers. In the years following Lindsay Buziak's tragic death, her father, Jeff Buziak, has continuously searched for answers, often leading to speculation and the development of various theories. One of the more controversial elements in this ongoing saga is a letter Jeff claimed to have discovered in 2012. In a blog post from that year, Jeff stated that Lindsay had left him a letter naming certain individuals and describing events leading up to her death. He cryptically mentioned that the letter indicated Lindsay had seen something she shouldn't have, which he believed could be a key to understanding her murder. However, no such letter has ever been publicly revealed, and its existence has been a point of contention. Jeff has since asserted that during Lindsay's visit to him in Calgary in December of 2007, she either told him or strongly implied that she had witnessed something troubling, though she never disclosed the specifics. This claim has fueled further speculation about what Lindsay might have encountered in the weeks leading up to her death. Evelyn Rietmeyer, Lindsay's mother, has consistently disputed Jeff's claims. She told a reporter that Lindsay never mentioned seeing anything unusual to her, and that after speaking with many of Lindsay's friends, none of them recalled Lindsay sharing any such concerns. Rietmeyer also said that after learning about the alleged letter, she contacted the police, who informed her that they had never received it, despite Jeff's claim that he had turned it over to authorities. When a reporter reached out to Jeff for clarification on the letter and other related issues, Jeff did not respond directly to the questions. Instead, he reiterated that his sole objective was to see those responsible for Lindsay's murder brought to justice. He also asserted that the emails used by the reporter, obtained from one of his former website administrators, were private, and that publishing them would violate his rights. Jeff warned that anyone sharing or using this private information publicly would be named and addressed in public forums if applicable. The emails in question, which were sent from personal accounts and formed the basis of several news stories, provide a glimpse into the operations of the website, lindsaybuziakmurder.com. They also offer an insight into some of the more well-known claims surrounding the case. Notably, in an email from 2013, Jeff appeared to acknowledge that the letter he claimed Lindsay had left was fabricated. "That faux letter is certainly bothering some, isn't it?" he wrote to one of his website administrators. This revelation casts doubt on one of the central pieces of Jeff's narrative and raises questions about the motives behind some of the public statements made in the years since Lindsay's murder. As the investigation continues, the truth about the letter, like many other aspects of the case, remains shrouded in mystery. As the years have passed since Lindsay Buziak's murder, public interest in the case has remained high, fueled in part by media coverage and ongoing speculation. However, the Saanich Police Department has maintained a stance of limited communication regarding the investigation. In an email sent to a reporter on January 18, 2023, a public information officer with the SPD stated that the police were not in a position to comment on Jeff Buziak or the investigation into Lindsay Buziak's murder. The 2010 Dateline episode covering Lindsay's case drew significant attention, particularly a panel discussion involving 3 law enforcement experts who were not directly involved in the investigation. These experts speculated that Lindsay's murder might have been perpetrated by someone within the same industry, suggesting a possible connection to her real estate career. This theory, despite being speculative, resonated with many viewers, especially given that Lindsay had been lured to the showing under the pretext of a high commission sale. Police have previously stated that they found no evidence directly linking Lindsay's profession as a real estate agent to her murder, aside from the use of a property as a lure. However, because Shirley, Jason, and Ryan Zalo were all real estate agents at the time, the Dateline panel's speculation led to rumors and suspicions that the Zalo family might be involved in the crime. In response to the public's growing suspicion, just 2 days after the Dateline episode aired, the SPD held a press conference to clarify their position. They announced that no member of the Zalo family is considered a person of interest or a suspect in this investigation, seeking to dispel the theories that had taken hold in the wake of the show. When a reporter reached out to Dateline to inquire whether they are aware of the police department's announcement, along with other questions, a spokesman for the show simply responded, "We stand by our story and our reporting process. We look forward to Lindsay's killers being brought to justice." The Dateline episode and subsequent press conference exemplify the challenges of balancing public interest with responsible reporting, particularly in high-profile cases like Lindsay's, where speculation can easily turn into unwarranted accusations. Despite the SPD's clear statement, the episode has left a lasting impression on the public surrounding Lindsay's murder, illustrating how media coverage can significantly influence the perception of an unsolved case. The discovery of Lindsay Buziak's body on February 2, 2008, triggered an extensive police investigation, but it was not without its complications. After securing the crime scene at 1702 D'Souza Place, police brought in a K-9 unit to search the exterior of the house for any signs of the suspects. Unfortunately, the search yielded no results. The dog didn't pick up any scent that could lead to the perpetrators. Compounding the issue, the side of the house facing the street was not thoroughly searched due to contamination caused by the presence of first responders, as noted in court documents. As the investigation continued, a neighbor across the street observed police officers going door to door, searching yards with flashlights. Despite these efforts, the investigation faced significant hurdles. To this day, police have never publicly disclosed whether they recovered the murder weapon, and no one has been charged in connection with Lindsay's murder. One of the individuals interviewed by the police was Joe D'Souza, the developer who was selling the property. D'Souza, whose family owned and was developing the entire D'Souza Place cul-de-sac, told police that he had been inside the house before the scheduled showing on February 2nd. He mentioned that he had checked the doors and windows, even venturing into the primary bedroom and ensuite, but reported that everything seemed to be normal. D'Souza cooperated fully with the investigation, providing elimination fingerprints and footprints and giving the police informed consent to enter the property. Despite these efforts, the forensic evidence recovered from the scene was minimal. A forensic pathologist determined that only one weapon had been used to inflict Lindsay's fatal injuries, though it remains unknown whether the suspects wore gloves when they shook hands with Lindsay, potentially eliminating crucial DNA evidence. The lack of forensic evidence has been a significant obstacle in this case, leaving investigators with few leads to pursue. In 2019, the Office of Investigative Standards and Practices recommended that the police utilize new technology to retest the evidence from the crime scene, hoping that advancements in forensic science might yield new clues. However, as of now, these efforts have not resulted in any breakthroughs in this investigation. The lack of evidence and the passage of time continue to challenge the pursuit of justice for Lindsay Buziak, leaving her case unresolved and her family still searching for answers. The day after Lindsay Buziak's murder, the police investigation began to uncover crucial pieces of evidence related to the mysterious phone call that had lured her to 1702 D'Souza Place. Investigators quickly obtained some initial data from Lindsay's BlackBerry, including the 778 area code phone number that the caller had used. Including this number, they filed a court application for a production order, requesting Virgin Mobile, the service provider, to release subscriber information. However, the information they received led to a dead end. The prepaid phone, later dubbed the crime phone by police, had been purchased in late 2007 from a convenience store in Vancouver and activated online. The details provided during activation, including the name Paolo Rodriguez, were entirely fictitious. By the time police traced the phone back to the store, any surveillance footage that might have shown who purchased the phone had already been erased, as explained by Staff Sergeant Chris Horsley on Dateline. The crime phone was exclusively used to contact Lindsay, and police theorized that its sole purpose was to lure her to her death. They suspected that additional phones were likely used by the conspirators to communicate with each other while avoiding detection, especially just before or after calls with Lindsay. Each time the crime phone was used, police collected cell tower data, capturing information about other phones that accessed the same towers simultaneously. However, what became of this vast amount of data remains unclear, and it is unknown whether it provided any actionable leads. Police later confirmed that the crime phone was deactivated shortly after Lindsay's murder. In addition to phone records, investigators also turned their attention to digital evidence on Lindsay and Jason's Toshiba laptop, which was handed over to the RCMP's Technological Crime Unit. Officer Paul Brooks, who examined the computer, discovered that data related to the internet chat communications had recently been deleted. This missing data was supposed to be stored in a folder called My Received Files within the My Documents section of the hard drive, but the folder was found empty. Brooks also analyzed the laptop's page file, which contained fragments of past word processing activities, emails, and internet browsing history. His findings indicated that there had been chat messages on the computer at one time, but they had since been erased. Unfortunately, Brooks was unable to determine exactly when the deletion occurred. Due to his obligations under the RCMP, Brooks declined to provide further information to the reporter who sought additional details. The discovery of the crime phone and the deleted digital evidence added layers of complexity to the investigation, illustrating the careful planning that had gone into Lindsay's murder. Despite these findings, many questions remain unanswered, and the case continues to be a source of frustration and heartache for those seeking justice for Lindsay. As the investigation into Lindsay Buziak's murder progressed, police delved deeper into her digital footprint, uncovering more puzzling details that added to the complexity of the case. One discovery involved Lindsay's Facebook activity, or more accurately, the lack thereof. An officer studying Lindsay's Facebook page noticed that none of her 700 friends had posted any messages on her wall between January 24th and February 3rd, 2008. This absence of activity was highly unusual, as Lindsay was typically active on social media. Court documents later suggested that police believed messages might have been deleted during this period. On March 25, 2008, police filed a request for a court order to obtain certain records from Facebook, specifically targeting deleted wall messages. The details of what Facebook provided to the police remain unclear, but notes made by a Saanich police officer indicated that the platform, still relatively new at the time, allowed users to delete messages from their own wall. The implication was that Lindsay or someone with access to her account may have deleted the messages. Despite this, Staff Sergeant Chris Horsley stated that police thoroughly investigated Lindsay's social media activity, including deleted chats, and found nothing that pointed to a crime or a potential motive. The missing Facebook messages only deepened the mystery, and when a reporter asked Lindsay's friends and family about the unexplained gap in activity, they had no answers. Amidst these digital mysteries, police developed a theory that Lindsay might have been mistakenly identified as an informant in a major drug operation. This theory was linked to several events, particularly Lindsay's trip to visit her father in Calgary in December of 2007. Just a few weeks after her visit, Calgary police executed a massive raid in the city's northwest, which marked the beginning of Operation High Noon. This year-long investigation resulted in the seizure of 80 kilograms of cocaine, valued at $8 million, and was hailed as Alberta's largest ever cocaine bust at the time. Despite the circumstantial timing, there is no evidence that Lindsay was involved in the drug operation or the subsequent seizure. She was widely known to be anti-drug, with multiple sources confirming that she was not a drug user. Additionally, there was no indication that Lindsay had informed the police about the drug activity, nor have the authorities found any evidence linking her to the criminal behavior. However, a curious detail emerged from her digital activity after returning home from Calgary. Lindsay visited the Facebook page of a relative of someone involved in the drug operation and attempted to contact that person by phone. The nature of the call and her reasons for visiting the Facebook page remain unknown. As Staff Sergeant Horsley noted on Crime Watch Daily, "We don't know the nature of the call. We don't know why she called him. We don't know why she was on his Facebook site." These digital traces, while intriguing, have done little to unravel the mystery of Lindsay's murder. Instead, they have raised more questions, fueling speculation and leading to theories that so far remain unproven. The investigation continues to be haunted by the unknown, with Lindsay's online activities offering tantalizing but ultimately inconclusive clues. The investigation into Lindsay Buziak's murder has spanned over a decade, marked by intense scrutiny, multiple theories, and a relentless search for the truth. The Saanich Police Department, in collaboration with the FBI, RCMP, and other law enforcement agencies, has dedicated significant resources to solving this tragic case. Over the years, they have applied for and received more than 35 warrants and production orders, targeting entities like Facebook, Bell Mobility, and BC Ferries. The investigation has included over 400 interviews and the examination of around 2,000 entities, including people of interest and witnesses. Despite these exhaustive efforts, the case remains unsolved, leaving Lindsay's family and friends in a painful state of uncertainty. The best hope for resolution now lies in advancements in forensic science or in someone deciding to come forward, possibly to make a deal with the police. In a televised address in 2021, Constable Marcus Anastides of the SPD made a direct appeal, emphasizing that it was not too late for those who may have been unknowingly involved in Lindsay's murder to come forward and help bring closure to the case. At the time this video is being made, there is a civil claim by Shirley Zalo filed in 2022, which names Jeff Buziak, Lindsay's father, and Chilliwack resident Jane Kavanaugh for defamation, based on comments made on a website. In April of 2024, Jeff Buziak filed a countersuit. It appears the results of both filings are still pending. For Evelyn Rietmeyer, Lindsay's mother, the pain of losing her daughter remains as sharp as ever. She remembers Lindsay as a vibrant young woman, full of life and hope for the future, a future that was cruelly taken from her. Reflecting on her loss, Rietmeyer expressed a deep longing for an end to the speculation and stories that have surrounded the case for so long. "It's so wrong that she's not here," she said. "I don't want sympathy because that doesn't help anything. I just want it over with, so there's no more speculation and there's no more stories." Lindsay Buziak's murder is a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the devastating impact of unresolved tragedy. The outpouring of public interest, the dedication of law enforcement, and the tireless efforts of her loved ones all speak to the profound loss felt by those who knew her. As we reflect on her story, we can only hope that one day those responsible for this heinous act will be brought to justice. For Lindsay's family and friends, the hope remains that they will finally receive the answers they so desperately seek, and that they may find some measure of peace in knowing the truth. Until then, Lindsay's memory endures, a beacon of the life she lived and the justice that still eludes her. Thank you once again for watching my video. My name is Vince. Would you please consider supporting my channel by either buying me a cup of coffee at my Patreon account linked below, or even treating yourself to some merchandise at my online shop. I truly appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this story, you might also enjoy the story of the disturbing Dardine murders. You will find the link to that story in the upper right corner of your screen. Thank you.